Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or seeking to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psychreg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as clinical psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Berney Wilkinson and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back. Richard, you are never ready on time. What?
You said you couldn't wait to get this one started. Now I know why.
That's right. So the title of this podcast and the purpose of this podcast is about to stop catastrophizing.
That's right. And you used the word never.
Right. Never. You are never ready on time.
So this is about catastrophizing.
You are always late.
That's right. And this is one of my favorite topics. I've said this many, many times to my children, to my wife. Don't catastrophize. Stop catastrophizing.
Right.
Let's stop. Let's sit back. There's a wonderful line. I don't remember what episode it's from in 13 Reasons. Mm-hmm. And the dad said, before we get to the sentencing phase, let's figure out what's really happening here.
Right.
And I love that line because the mother is ready to catastrophize.
Right.
She's ready to push the panic button.
Right.
And he's saying, wait a minute, before we punish him, before we go to punishment, let's figure out what's really happening.
Right.
And I like the advice. But this is about catastrophizing.
Right. This is a blog post written in Psychreg by Mandy Wildig, I think is how you pronounce her name. And the idea is that we tend to exaggerate.
Right.
We tend to globalize, to put it into words that Aaron Beck and what's his name, Seligman, those guys used to say. Mm-hmm. They would talk about globalizing and personalizing and making it universal and those kinds of things. We make these statements to suggest that whatever flaw or problem or concern or issue that we're having is a permanent global issue. We are, I never do anything right. Something, and you can. I don't know if the catastrophize is the right word, but you can catastrophize in both directions. That's the best movie I've ever seen.
Oh.
Really? I mean, it wasn't the best movie. I mean, it was a good movie.
Might have been.
But then the next week you go to another movie. Now that was the best movie I've ever seen.
Right.
It's just like each time. And so this tendency, I think that when we have a tendency to do it on the positive side, like that, this is the best movie I've ever seen. That was the best meal I've ever had. Mm-hmm. When we tend to do it on that direction, we also tend to do it on the other direction as well. Right. And we say, that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
It has this propensity to just really push everything out to the extremes in both directions, really getting rid of the middle ground.
Right. And it is our choice of words that gets us into trouble. When we catastrophize, typically what we're doing, there are two things at work when we catastrophize. One is our thinking, but the other is our language.
Right.
Okay, and we need to be aware of both because as soon as and this comes under that heading of we can't control what happens,
right,
but we can control our reaction to what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when pressures begin to mount, when stress begins to creep into our lives, we typically, very often, we tend to over-respond, And we over-respond in two ways. Number one, we begin to think catastrophically. Oh my God, this is not going to work out. Everything is wrong. And then we begin to use words like never. This is the best. This is the worst. And so we begin to use words that have absolutes to them, and typically they're negative.
Right.
They're negative words. This is the worst. This is never. We begin to use words like that. And so what we have to do, because once we start down that path of negative thinking and negative language, it sort of starts to get momentum and become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Right. So we have to stop this process before it gets hold of us, before it hijacks us,
Right.
before it gets momentum.
Right. And you're going to like this reference. That's one of the things that I really do like about SpongeBob. Did you like that? One of the
I'll
hang with me.
I'll hang with you for a minute.
SpongeBob always says, "This is going to be the best day ever."
Right.
You know,
and it turns out,
and I like the idea of approaching things from that positive view. You do have to be careful that you don't over exaggerate to the point where you become SpongeBob in the world
Pollyanna,
right?
Yeah.
Because that's just not realistic either.
Right.
But this idea that when we get it in our minds that everything is negative, everything is the worst, everything is bad,
right.
And we are exaggerating in either direction, we have this inability to appreciate everything else.
Right.
That's sort of what we would then consider as mundane.
Right.
It's just the blah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be the best meal you've ever had. And it doesn't have to be the worst meal you've ever had. It can just be a good meal.
Good. It can just be good. These are really good.
Yeah.
They don't have to be the best fish taco I've ever had.
Right.
This is real. I'm enjoying this.
Right.
This is good.
Yeah. So we need to be careful about the vocabulary that we use. This is especially important when we're talking with our loved ones. You never listen to me, Richard. You never. Every time we talk, you start looking off at
That's right.
those kinds of things, and it's like you're not
sitting there
accomplishing
thinking,
anything.
I listen to you sometimes. I listen to you most of the time.
Can you really say never?
You said never.
That's right.
I really do listen sometimes.
Right.
But I love these other phrases that they go like, I'm starving.
Right.
As soon as you say I'm starving, it's like you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like you're ready, and you're not.
Right.
Okay. You're very hungry and you'd like to eat.
Yeah.
But starving?
Yeah.
No.
It's not off topic, but
yeah, it probably is.
I think about that. I think about that a lot when I watch movies, because they'll show a character that's they're off somewhere and they haven't eaten since yesterday or something like that, and then somebody gives them a plate of food and they're acting like an animal, just shoving the food, and it's like, what? Right. You're acting as though, and as you were saying, you're acting as though you're starving.
Right.
And the point that I was trying to make with that is that when we use those words, we begin to believe those words. Mm-hmm. Okay. When we say, "Man, I'm starving," what you're going to start believing is, "I'm so hungry, I'm going to eat anything, even if it's not healthy for me, even if it's not something I should be eating. We're going to just eat whatever." Mm-hmm. I'm this or I'm that. You never listen to me. Right. You're going to start believing that you never listen.
Right.
And when we start to hold those beliefs based upon what we're telling ourselves and what we're telling others, then we get into really slippery slope there.
That's right, because you mentioned earlier, you can tell your spouse, well, you never listen to me. You never do this. You never is stronger than you need to be. But when you, and it angers your spouse, it offends your spouse.
Right.
And it makes your spouse angry,
right.
Hearing those words. What do you mean I never pay attention to you? I spend my life paying attention to you, okay? You do the same thing to yourself,
right.
Okay? And people forget that when you talk to yourself, it has the same effect, okay? It has a damaging effect on you,
right.
Okay? I mean, you don't think about things, you say, oh, my life is over, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You're damaging yourself, just like you would damage a spouse by saying, my life is over living with you.
Right.
Okay. That would be damaging to the spouse. Well, it's just as damaging to you when you use those negative phrases, negative words.
Right. And it really doesn't accomplish what you're hoping it will accomplish, because as soon as you tell your spouse, you never listen to me, when I hear that, now my immediate response is going to be defending that claim.
That's the natural response.
We have now taken... removed ourselves from what the actual discussion was about.
That's right.
And now we're going to be talking about this use of the word never.
Right. I think of deadlines.
Right.
I'll never get this finished. There's just no way that I can get this finished.
And then we do.
Okay. Instead, say, this is going to be a tough one.
Right.
But I have to organize myself so that I can get this finished.
Right.
Because if I don't organize myself, I won't finish it. So I have to spend my energy organizing it because I'm on a very tight deadline.
Right.
And I have to figure out how to get this completed.
Right.
Rather than, I'll never get this finished.
Right.
And you won't.
Yeah, we talked about that with metacognitive therapy, right? We talked about, okay, when you have those thoughts, because we will have those thoughts.
That's
my gosh, I'm never going to get this finished.
Right.
What is that thought telling you? That thought is telling you you need to organize yourself. You need to get yourself put together. You need a plan. And so you need to get that stuff done so that you can then have a systematic approach to accomplishing it.
That's right. Catastrophize. Anytime you begin to catastrophize, that's a prompt that you got to reorganize yourself.
Right.
Okay. It really should serve as a prompt.
Right.
So that it doesn't get traction, so that it doesn't get momentum.
Right. When you have the thought that, when you're talking to your spouse or your loved one, and that, you never listen to me, what is that thought trying to tell you?
Right.
That thought is telling you that you're trying to communicate something that they're not understanding. Not that they never listen to you, but that you're trying to communicate something that it doesn't seem like they're understanding. Right. That's what you need to focus on, not the fact that they, or not the opinion that they never listen to you.
Right.
It's not a fact. It's an alternative fact.
Because once you've said that, now you've created a whole other set of issues.
Right. So. Okay. All right. Is that it?
I like it. Weren't there...
What?
Nope, that's it. It was language and thinking. They mentioned William James here. Didn't they mention William James at one point? No, not in this one.
No, not in this.
Yeah, he had a nice...
But
I like this. I like this. Do not catastrophize.
Right.
Again, it's a useful skill for us to use. It's also something useful to teach your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
That when they begin to catastrophize, say, wait a minute, let's think about this for a moment. Think about it. How else can we frame this? How else can we talk about it? So move them away from that negative language.
A couple of announcements before we go.
Right.
So this podcast is going to go out on Wednesday, on May 10th. Tomorrow night, May 11th. Ooh. We're going to be hosting our third in the series on 13 Reasons Why. And we're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4 in that online discussion through YouTube. So stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook
live.
and everything.
It's going to be live and participatory.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you can follow us and sit in the chat room with us and talk to us while we're recording the podcast live. And so we can interact, we can communicate as we're going through. And so if you have questions or if you have opinions or thoughts about anything, you can write to us that way. Now, I think that if I understand it right, because I'm still trying to figure everything out, I think you have to log in to YouTube to be able to actually chat in the chat room. Okay. So if you have
get on YouTube,
and it's a free membership you can do. It doesn't, but that also, if you have your own login and everything, that also allows you to subscribe to us on YouTube, which will help keep you informed of all the things that we're doing, because we're having so much fun with this. Well, it sounds strange to say we're having fun talking about 13 Reasons Why, because that's a really dense topic. Yeah. But we're going to do more of these. We're going to try to do different series and talk about different things, because it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, on our blog, everywhere else, and so that you can keep in touch. And we will be posting the link to the YouTube chat probably in the next couple of days in preparation for that. Well, I'm saying in the next couple of days based upon when we're recording this. Right. So the link should already be there. You should already have it.
Right.
It should be out there on our Twitter feed. So join us for that. Yep. The second thing is that we have a contest going on with Lumie, Lumie. Again, it's a very neat set of products. They have them for wake-up lights for your morning alarm, which is a great way. I mean, our bodies are made to wake up and to be alert when it's light outside. So these are alarm clocks that have lights, natural lights with them that get brighter in the morning for you to wake up by. So there's no loud noises. There's none of that kind of stuff. You can wake up to natural light just like our body is meant to.
Right. That's right. And you come out of that sleep cycle naturally rather than being ripped out by an alarm.
Yeah, that awful sound.
Auditory.
Now I wake up to a theme song from a particular football club, so it's not too disturbing. Yes, I do. Of course I do. What are you talking about? They also have lights for. That's it. They also have lights for seasonal affective disorder, which
Right.
is a very good thing. We don't really have that issue too much here in Florida, but certainly those of you up in the
Northern reaches.
up there
Right.
will struggle with it. Now, the contest is really only for those
For our
listeners
friends
in the UK.
Right.
Lumi is a UK-based thing. Now, they you can purchase and you can get those things
Right.
for here in the United States, but this contest is specifically for our listeners in the UK. So follow us on Twitter. Follow the Psychreg podcast. So it's Psychreg podcast on Twitter,
Right.
and you'll be able to get information about how to register and how to get your name in the hat for this
For
contest.
these lights. Right.
Very cool.
Love
Very
that
cool.
wake up light.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So that is it for today. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and forget to be afraid.